Rumray Radio here on UCY.TV. You just got done listening to Try This at Home with Dana Martin. And now, for the next 2 hours, you get to listen to me and my big-ass mouth. I'm Jim Funke, and this is Boiler Room Radio. My sidekick over there, his name's Lance Musser. He's in Virginia somewhere. Sitting by the coast.
Region 3.
FEMA Region 3. That's right. So you're not feeling too good, man? Your legs are still huge? I'm not liking that too much.
No, I mean, it's weird, from that brown recluse bite. I mean, it's my lymph node in my groin has probably grown 3 to 4 times the size that it was when they sent me to the emergency room. When they said, oh, my God, that's bad, go to the emergency room, it's grown double or triple that size since then. So I'm going back tomorrow morning.
Yikes, man.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Not good. It's not good.
No, and I don't like
now until you see. Just for vengeance.
Well, I'll know the difference between the poisonous ones and the non-poisonous ones. So if I see a brown recluse again,
it's dead.
It's dead. Yeah, it's dead.
Speaking of dead, Wall Street took a big shit today.
Well, it ended its 5-day artificially inflated win streak. Let's put it that way. It didn't die by any means. It's still, 835 points above 16,000.
Yeah.
So
we're going to dive right into Smoke'em's Market Minute.
Oh, was that a sound machine there?
A little bit.
Well, I like that. Try that again.
What'd you like about it? Adds a little bit of reverb.
Yep. All right, good. Yeah, we'll need some, cash registers, clinging, noise effects, different.
Haven't got that yet. Haven't got
that. And your wah-wah when somebody starts talking crap. So I like that one.
Need some cowbell.
That's right.
Dive on in, man. Tell us what Wall Street happened.
I will. The mortgages, if you're trying to get a mortgage, they've got a little bit cheaper for you today. So that's always a good thing.
But houses not selling, so...
you know what? Let me start with that story. Where did I just see that story? Here we go. Since you talked about houses, let me start with that story. Mind-blowing fact of the day. China has over 52 million vacant homes. 1 in 5 homes.
How many of those are in Detroit?
No, this is mainland China.
Sorry.
1 in 5 homes with $674 billion of mortgages. So all these vacant homes, a lot of them still have mortgages on them.
Mm-hmm. Well, don't they have isn't that where the ghost cities are?
I don't know that they're counting the ghost cities. I mean, They do have the ghost cities because these are some of them in urban areas and some of them aren't.
Right.
So they never specifically pointed out the ghost cities, which, we've talked about the ghost cities, and I think it's actually a good topic for a half hour one night on, is it there for a catalytic event? Is it there for a different...
I think the Japanese ought to be going over there and buying up some of that prime stuff.
That's what I'm saying. Or do they know Fukushima's going to get so bad and all of Japan?
Like it's not already?
Well, according to the experts, we're fine. I mean, we're fine. The Pacific Ocean's
Go back
big.
to sleep.
The Pacific Ocean's big, and it just filters it.
It's just one huge filter.
Right.
Exactly. It's, listen to the experts. It's just one thing. Let's see here. Yeah, exactly. You need that sound effect. If you think urbanization will fix the problem of the 1 in 5 homes, a 10 percentage point rise in the urbanization rate, which is already at 54%, would only result in a 2.6 drop in vacancy rates because they got so many darn people.
So many darn people.
The vacancy rate of sold residential homes reached 22% in 2013, and as new home prices slashed, a 30% drop would leave 11.2% of the Chinese homes underwater for their mortgages. So just like we had our big crash because we were starting to lose a whole lot of value on stuff, there's people saying that they're going to be in the same boat here very shortly.
The boat's sinking.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Grab the bucket.
Grab a bucket for sure. The domestic loans, which I guess are just the loans from that country, are actually lower for the first time than the outside loans for the properties, which is interesting, which would almost imply that it's people other than Chinese, because there used to be a motto there, he who buys a home is going to make money. I mean, it's not the exact Chinese proverb, but the theory was...
Is that Confucius?
No, it's one of these guys here in this article that I just read, but they were talking about, they called it a bloom. That's what it was called in China, was a bloom, because anybody who bought a house was able to make money on it every single time.
Oh, they like flipping?
Yeah, either flipping or renting it out.
Gotcha.
So they've always had this popular saying there in China, about that is, and now they're saying the bloom is ending, and that's where, it gets kind of ugly right there. So enough on China. I'm just going to roll through a couple stories and shorter ones and just kind of mention the more interesting stuff. Jim Willie. I mean, Jim Willie. You read him. I mean, you've read him.
Yep.
He has done his most explosive interview ever, and it's kind of interesting because the video is removed from YouTube, which I don't understand.
No. Censorship? No, come on.
I tried going to listen to it because it was, he entered the conversation, so now I've got to go to the other site. But he dropped numerous bombshells for all the listeners. But the four most biggest, I guess, bombshells that he dropped, I want to go ahead and mention. The dead petrodollar event is coming. The Saudis are set to announce the acceptance of any currency for oil.
Except the dollar.
No, he would take the dollar until it crashes. Of course, it'll be, $600 a barrel. You're going to spend $1 on it.
All right. Cool.
And all OPEC nations are to follow. So we'll see what happens there. U.S. economy in a free fall. Stark evidence is screaming full collapse ahead as monetary velocity plunges to a 20-year low.
Man, I haven't seen shit about this on CNBC, man.
You need to watch MSNBC or Bill Fox, I think. I think that's where you got to watch it. I think those are the ones that are fair and balanced and tell the truth. QE, quantitative easing, has become a deadweight millstone on the neck of the U.S. economy. The true purpose is to collapse the U.S. economy and institute global fascism, which would be a new world order, one world economy, money. And his most shocking claim that he did on the interview last night, Japan, Saudi Arabia, France, and Germany are preparing to turn against the U.S. and join the Chinese-Russian alliance.
1,000 points of light.
Not my words. Not my words at all. This is Jim Willie's words. So we'll see what happens there.
He took a drink before he said that?
No, I had to.
Okay.
The feds, because we got to talk about them for a second, are concerned that selling bonds from their $4.3 trillion, with a T, portfolio could crush the U.S. recovery, and are preparing to keep their balance sheet close to record levels for years, which means they're not selling off any of their debt. They're going to be keeping all of it. Central bankers are stepping back from a 3-year-old strategy for an exit from the unprecedented easing they deployed to battle the worst recession since the Great Depression. Minutes of their last meeting in April made no mention of asset sales. The strategy... Oh, no, hold on. Fed officials, led by Chair Janet Yellen.
Oh, yeah.
There it is. Who meet June 17th through the 18th, so they're meeting again, anticipate raising their benchmark federal funds rate next year for the first time since 2006. But if you remember the show we did, a week or 2 weeks ago, they also interviewed the other Fed chairman from like Philadelphia, and he said, look, we're prepared to go through 2016 and not change this thing. So can I get your wah-wah sound effect?
They just lie through their teeth, man.
They are.
Everything they say is just a lie.
They are.
Fail. Epic fail.
Yep. I want to get everybody thinking about one thing for 1 second. The U.S. is preparing to sue Bank of America after reaching an impasse in talks to resolve government probe of lenders' sale of mortgage-backed securities.
So they're going to sue them and take back some of the money they gave them last year.
Well, check this out. The Justice Department broke off negotiations earlier this week because it was dissatisfied. Well, they were dissatisfied with the bank's offer to pay more than $12 billion, which included at least $5 billion in consumer relief, which would either be principal reductions on your mortgage or maybe giving $200 to everybody that they screwed over. The department's latest settlement request, though, was $17 billion. Though negotiators were willing to consider less, the amount would come on top of the $9.5 billion the bank agreed to in March to resolve the Federal Housing Finance Agency's claims of misconduct and everything else.
What bank is this now?
Bank of America.
How much did they get in the bailout?
I think that information was classified.
Yeah, I bet it was.
Yeah.
Okay, keep going. Sorry.
I think I
just thought I'd throw that caveat in there. They got money at the bailout. So all these fines and shit is money that we gave them anyway.
So the fines is what I want everybody to keep in mind here, because you've got what? They want $17 billion on top of the $9.5 billion that they've already paid out. Mm-hmm. J.P. Morgan and Chase and Bear Stearns reached a $13 billion agreement last November.
This must be all that money they're giving to Ukraine.
You know what? Maybe that's where it is going.
Because they're giving them. They've already given them what, $50 billion, and then they gave them another $5 billion a couple of weeks ago, and now I think they're giving $1 billion to the Syrian rebels or some shit. I don't know. They're coming up with all this money to give all these people overseas, man. But our veterans are falling.
Our veterans, our elderly. Our schools, our roads,
shitty roads, bridges fall into the water every once in a while around here.
But we can afford to militarize our police force and spend money on defense.
Yeah, and shoot rockets off into space with tons of lithium on them.
Crazy. Oh yeah, right here, 80 miles away from me.
Yeah.
So I've just named 3 banks: Bank of America, J.P. Morgan Chase, and Bear Stearns, that are all multi-billion-dollar settlements in the teens. And then I ran across another story. Here we go. Goldman Sachs and Bain Capital to pay $121 million in fines to end their investigation onto the leveraged stuff that they did to leverage their private equity and how they were rigging bids and everything else. So maybe you did answer the question, because that's what, again, I was going to ask was, you've got record numbers of fines going to the federal government. Dude, where's it going? Where's it going?
In their pocket.
Crazy.
Just big pockets, man.
Have you heard the one about the economic recovery in the United States?
No.
It's quite funny, but it's not actually true. Every day, the establishment media points to the fact that the global stock markets have soared to unprecedented heights as evidence that the economy has proven. But just because a bunch of wealthy people have gotten temporarily even richer on paper doesn't mean that the real economy is in good shape. In fact, things just continue to get even tougher for the poor and the middle class. Retail stores are closing at the fastest pace since the fall of Lehman Brothers. The rate of home ownership in this country is the lowest it's been in 19 years. 1 out of every 5 families do not have a single member that is employed. You've given that stat out before.
Yep.
And 1 out of every 5 children is living in poverty. And I know a lot of them around here living in cars and hotels. With each passing day, the middle class gets a little bit smaller, and the ranks of the poor get a little bit larger. But at least the stock market's doing great, huh? So if the U.S. economy is doing really well, government dependence would not be at epidemic levels. If the economy was really doing well, we wouldn't have more than 1 million public school children that are homeless. I just mentioned that.
1 million.
1 million. And that's probably underreported because those are just the ones that are willing to admit it. If the U.S. economy was doing really well, the percentage of Americans that have a job would not be lower than it was when the last recession supposedly ended. Nobody takes an honest look at the numbers, or nobody takes an honest look at the numbers can honestly say that the U.S. economy has recovered. The following reasons why you can laugh when anyone tells you the economy is in good shape. These are pretty good. Radio Shack just announced it's going to close an additional 200 stores on top of what it's already planned to close. During the first quarter of this year, reported earnings by major U.S. retailers.
Can I throw something out there about the Radio Shack thing just really quick? Because I know a little bit about this company. I shop at this company quite often.
Well, Radio Shack's model went out about 10 years ago, but go ahead.
Well, yeah, but they still, Tandy Corporation makes some really good electronics, and if you don't agree with me, go buy one and try it out. They make really good electronics. Back in the day, they made some rocking home stereos. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I shop at Radio Shack quite often because I'm into radio stuff and, buy coaxes and shit like that. But anyway, Radio Shack has 38 stores in the city of Houston. Mm-hmm. So they're closing 30 of them. So when you're looking at some of these store closure thingies, they really over flooded the market in some areas with stores.
Because they were the only ones around back in the 70s and 80s when those stores were built.
Exactly. And now the Best Buy is beating the shit out of them on other stuff. Now they're just, they've got to keep up with corporate demand or whatever, right? So, to have 38 stores in one city, granted, Houston's pretty big, but still, that's a shitload of stores to be in one city.
It's a big market. But, correct me if I'm wrong here, and maybe even the listeners can relate to this. I would say, based on the Radio Shacks that I go in, because whenever I need a weird wire, a weird plug, or I lose a plug for something, I know I can go to Radio Shack and I hand it to the guy and I say, and within 30 seconds, I'm there.
Does China make something like this?
It's not like going to Best Buy. It's not like going to, the old Circuit City where you'd walk in and try to have to find somebody. Right. But the problem I see with Radio Shack
which is the reason Circuit City went out of business.
Yes, because you couldn't ever get any help. Because they changed to a salary instead of commission, and then nobody wanted to talk to customers anymore. Because Best Buy made them change that. So anyway, the stores that I've been in Radio Shack doesn't look like they've had new carpet or a new paint or new shelves or a new upgrade in 20 years.
The one down here is brand spanking new.
I've never been in a brand new Radio Shack because I've never seen one. It's almost like going into a brand new Waffle House.
But they did change the entire layout of the store now. Everything is on the walls and on. It's like going into a shopping mall or a shopping center, like a grocery store or something. Everything's in aisles and shit now.
They've done well with the ones around here because the ones around here, I've been shopping at them since the 80s, and I could swear the carpet is still the same. The shelves are still in the same spot. Even the one in the mall. It looks identical. They got some new tile floor when you come in, but I just don't think they've ever evolved, and I think that was their problem. That was one of their problems. You're right, oversaturation.
Back in the early 2000s, they tried to change their name to the Shack.
I remember that.
And Shack, Shaquille O'Neal, squashed that.
Squashed them? Yeah, well. Continuing on.
Sorry, yeah.
Oh, no, it's fine. We're talking about Radio Shack. 1 out of every 3 grocery store workers in the state of California is on some form of public assistance. The percentage of Americans that believe that it is a good time to buy a home is the lowest that it's been in 4 years. According to one recent survey, 52% of Americans cannot even afford the house that they are living in right now. Sadly, only 36% of American adults under the age of 35 currently own a home. That's the lowest level that's ever been recorded. According to one study, half of all college graduates are still relying on their parents financially when they are 2 years out of school. The number of job cuts that are planned by U.S. employers is on the rise again. Right now, 1 out of every 6 men in their prime working years, 25 to 54, do not have a job. The percentage of Americans not in the labor force is still at a 36-year high. 53% of wage earners in the United States make less than $30,000 a year.
Say that one again. Just reiterate that one.
53% of wage earners in the United States make less than $30,000 a year. And that would be because they're mostly retail. I mean, half the jobs in the United States are going to be minimum wage retail clerks, etc.
And according to the statistics, in 2013, the average CEO's salary was 437 times that figure that Lance just gave you.
Yep.
437 times. 36,000.
The average age of vehicles on America's roads had just hit an all-time high of 11.4 years. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. Are we making them better? No.
Nope.
Or is it just that people simply cannot afford to buy new vehicles anymore?
Daily wire and duct tape, baby.
Now listen to this one and really pay attention to this one, everybody. According to Pulitzer Prize-winning reporter David K. Johnston, the economic recovery following the depths of the Great Depression was far superior to what we are experiencing today. And let me explain. The most eye-opening measure of how poorly the vast majority are faring these days comes from comparing the periods after the Great Recession and the Great Depression. The 90%, the vast majority, saw their income decline in 2012 compared with 2009. The year the Great Recession officially ended. Average annual income was down $556, or almost 2%, adjusted for inflation to $30,997. Now listen to this. But in 1936, 3 years after the Great Depression ended, the vast majority enjoyed 31% more income than 1933. So the average household income went up $2,100 adjusted in today's dollars, and we've gone down $556 compared to this.
The depression's not over yet.
The U.S. economy did not experience.
Just getting started.
The U.S. economy did not experience any economic growth during the first quarter of this year. In fact, it actually contracted. But we all know that was the weather.
Just like interest rates.
We all know that was the weather, so it's okay. We're summers here. The growth of furniture spending has just gone negative for the first time in 2 years. More than 20% of all children in the U.S. are living in poverty, and 49 million are dealing with food insecurity. And after adjusting for inflation, median household income in the U.S. is now about 7% lower than it was in the year 2000. Pretty startling.
Scary.
Scary, but, I'm still glad and happy that I wake up every day. I'm happy that, I'm excited for what's coming and what's coming down the road, just because, if there's people around to write history books, if there's not a great catalytic event, this will be in the history books for years and years to come. So it's very intriguing, to say the least.
All right. What else you got?
That's it.
That's it?
Yep.
All right. We'll jump over here and hit a couple of videos. Now, last time Scott did put one out last Wednesday. I played Full Spectrum Survival, I believe. Tonight I'm going to play Vice News. If you guys aren't subscribed to Vice News on YouTube, you might consider it. These people put out some very good information, mostly geared toward world headlines. Not so much economic stuff, but very, very good. So we're going to let them have a go for 2 minutes and 36 seconds.
It's Wednesday, June 11th, and here's some of the news beyond the headlines. A surge in opium poppy cultivation in Afghanistan has led neighbouring Iran to ramp up security along its 1,200-mile eastern border. The 2014 poppy harvest is expected to exceed last year's record-breaking 6,000-ton yield. So for the past year, Iran has spent $26 million setting up new moats, border posts and barbed wire fences. Iran is the first stop on the main smuggling route for heroin bound from Afghanistan to Europe. China is playing nice with some of its main rivals in the world's largest joint naval exercises as tensions soar over disputed territories in the South China Sea. The drills in the waters off Hawaii are a rare opportunity to build trust between China and the US and between China's regional rivals, Japan and the Philippines. Rising tensions over contested waters in the South China Sea have made them one of the world's most contested geopolitical arenas. Sunni Islamists have seized control of Iraq's second-largest city, Mosul, taking over military bases, freeing prisoners, and sending Iraqi troops fleeing in fear. Iraqi officials blame one of the country's strongest rebel groups for the attack, militants known as the Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant. Iraq's Prime Minister, Nouri al-Maliki, has asked the parliament to declare a nationwide state of emergency. Students in Sweden are using their veins to pay for beer and groceries on campus. The Quickster biometric device was designed by a student at Lund University, and it's now being used by over 2,000 students on campus. First, you register the vein patterns of the bottom of your hand to your banking details. Then you just scan the palm of your hand at the register, and the payment is complete. Because vein patterns are unique for every person, the inventor says it's a very secure way to pay without credit cards or cash. Check out the Vice News YouTube channel for more original reporting and documentaries from around the world.
Listen to this last.
So what you're saying is, we're coming off of a year of the biggest protest Brazil's ever seen, some of the most aggressive.
Yeah.
We've got corruption, financial waste just spread all over.
Talking about the World Cup.
All of the soccer hooligans are coming to descend on Brazil as well. So you've got all the soccer hooligans, you've got a pissed off population. It seems like a very, very large powder keg.
Yeah.
Is exactly right. There are people running down the streets in Brazil now with banners saying there will be no World Cup. So it's liable to get pretty dicey down there.
Yeah, I've seen the
quickly.
one, the guy holding a sign of, hey, we'd rather have roads and schools than a World Cup. Come on, man, spend this money.
We don't
on
need a
something
soccer
else.
ball. We need a meal.
Yep.
It's going to get very dicey down there pretty quickly.
Dicey's a good word.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're going to jump over here and listen to some Greg Manarino. He had to listen to you, I think, before he put his video out. So since he's gotten all his information, we'll listen to how he broke it down.
I hadn't listened to him, so anything he says, I hadn't listened to him. So.
Right on.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Greg Manarino.
We already
What
said
is today? It is Wednesday, June 11th, 2014. All right, people. So what is going on here? Very interesting, actually. Let's start with this. Today, the U.S. equity markets did fall. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell triple digits today. And why did that happen?
Because it's
Pretty
trying to
simple
correct
concept.
itself.
I believe if you follow this blog, you already know. But let's talk about what I guess everyone else doesn't know.
Hey, who the hell?
And that is this.
I'll be right back.
The World Bank just cut its forecast for global growth almost a half of a percentage point, actually 0.4 of a percentage point. And this is really kind of shocking in many ways. Although we understand where this is going, there is no recovery anywhere. There was no growth anywhere. All we have is a propped up and stimulated a global economy that is not sustainable. Period. The end. But let's put a perspective on this because it's kind of humorous in a lot of ways. So we found out last week Mario Draghi is going to be going negative with regard to interest rates, the European Central Bank. Again, they're going to do whatever they can to keep the system propped up. So even in the light of that, the World Bank has now cut its global forecast. And we understand here in the United States, things are not better, not by a long shot here. Again, despite what we're hearing out of the mouths of Fed presidents and Fed chair people and our policymakers, there's no economic recovery, there's no taper. We got stagnant wages, inflationary pressures, and it's just laughable when they keep throwing this information at us. The week prior, we found out that we've recovered all of the jobs that were lost during the Great Recession. Really, well, no one as of yet has explained to me why, if that's actually true, we have a labor force participation rate at a 35-year low. So I think what we can take away from all this, people, is the usual. It's just more nonsense. And today the market, got a little shook up by it. Nothing major. And I can tell you this. I think a lot of the dynamics are changing here with regard to the markets. And I would not be surprised at all to see the market bounce back up higher over the next couple of days, and this because it's all just fake and it's all just propped up. And I think what the markets are going to get out of this, the World Bank cutting their forecast in the face of the ECB taking unprecedented measures, going negative in interest rates, unimaginable stimulus by the Federal Reserve, money printing and bond purchases and everything else, and no taper. Okay, I had said last week or the week before that the market is anticipating some kind of a move from the Fed here. And I think that's going to happen. Understand, with what the ECB just did recently, the Fed is going to have to follow through because there's no real growth anywhere, people. Again, the talking heads on the financial channels or wherever else, they're out to sell you a product here. I'm not to tell you that it's not true, none of it. And if you don't get that by now, you got a serious problem here. We understand that despite everything that they're trying to do, despite what we heard about negative interest rates from the ECB, despite what the Federal Reserve is doing, we get the World Bank now cutting their global forecast. So what do you think they're going to do? The World Central Banks are going to do more to keep it propped up. It's that simple. They will not allow natural market forces to do their sole job. And the sole job, people, something I've gone over since day one of the equity market is only one thing, and that is to determine fair market value for assets across the board here, currencies, bonds, commodities, precious metals, equities. We will not allow this to happen. We have a managed market, and the price that is going to be paid for this managed market in the end is going to be extreme. But again, this is what's being set up here. There's no doubt about it. It's just an epic wealth transfer, and that is again why I sincerely believe, and I've gone over the past video or two, how we are going to have a two-tier society as we move forward. And I really believe this, that you can choose.
Mr. Repetitive. But he's right. And he's trying to hammer home a point. And we've been trying to hammer the same point home for, a year now, Lance?
Mm-hmm.
They can't keep doing this. I mean, I know they're keeping on, but it's going to come to an inevitable conclusion. And it's not going to be pretty for anybody. When he talks about a two-tier society, that's exactly what he means. There's going to be people that have shit and people that don't have shit. And the people that don't have shit are going to want to try to take the shit from the people that have the shit.
Yep, that's why I was saying, and I read that earlier, that if you're honestly looking at the numbers, you honestly know where it's going. So
you can't. I don't understand why they think they can hide it. You can't hide this any longer.
Well, you can create a diversion, and you can put the blame off on somebody else, and that is just as good as hiding it, which I think will happen. Another thing that we haven't really talked about much, because I only seen a couple blurbs about it, but the IMF traditionally headquarters themselves where the number one economy is. Well, it could be not too long before they're over in China. So if you hear more talks on the streets, about the IMF moving.
They have just bought 27 acres in Hong Kong.
Well, they have enough empty houses for their employees.
They're just going to go over there and buy one of those ghost cities and move all their cronies in, right?
That's right.
Okay, but speaking of all this, speaking of everything that's happening right now, the one thing that Lance and I try to reiterate to everybody every time we talk about this is that it's all by design. And I've got a little clip here that's about 9 minutes long. This clip is from two separate speeches. Actually, it's one speech, but it was taken, the gentleman, I'm going to give his name now, Robert Welch. He's the founder, one of the founders of the John Birch Society. He gave this speech, this is a repeat of it, but he gave this speech first in 1958. Okay? And obviously, people didn't pay attention then. He gave it again in 74. That's the one we're getting ready to listen to right now. And obviously, people didn't listen then either.
Aren't there some good quotes attributed to Plato, too?
Touché, my friend. Touché. But anyway, just give this 9 minutes, okay? Perk your ears up. Listen to what this man had to say. Because he laid it out for everybody twice in less than 2 decades. And nobody listened.
A part of that plan, of course, is to induce the gradual surrender of American sovereignty, piece by piece and step by step, to various international organizations, of which the United Nations is the outstanding but far from the only example. Here are the aims for the United States. 1, greatly expanded government spending for every conceivable means of getting rid of ever larger sums of American money as wastefully as possible. 2, higher and then much higher taxes. 3, an increasingly unbalanced budget despite the higher taxes. 4, wild inflation of our currency. 5, government controls of prices, wages, and materials, supposedly to combat inflation. 6, greatly increased socialistic controls over every operation of our economy and every activity of our daily lives. This is to be accompanied, naturally and automatically, by a correspondingly huge increase in the size of our bureaucracy and in both the cost and reach of our domestic government. 7, far more centralization of power in Washington and the practical elimination of our state lines. There is a many-faceted drive at work to have our state lines eventually mean no more within the nation than our county lines do now within the states. 8, the steady advance of federal aid to and control over our educational system, leading to complete federalization of our public education. 9, a constant hammering into the American consciousness of the horror of modern warfare, the beauties and the absolute necessity of peace. Peace always on communist terms, of course. And 10, the consequent willingness of the American people to allow the steps of appeasement by our government which amount to a piecemeal surrender of the rest of the free world and of the United States itself. So brush the insider's dust out of your eyes, my friends, and the communist soap suds out of your brain, and ask yourselves in all honesty, what on earth is wrong with the United States simply minding its own business?
If the internet would have been around this guy's talking, he'd been killed already.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
With having its foreign policy function primarily for the safety and benefit of the American people. Which is exactly what we had done for the first 140 years of our existence as a nation, to the incredible advantage of ourselves and everybody else. Everybody, that is, except a numerically small clique of power-lusting conspirators who had somehow inflicted themselves on a gullible world. While we turn to a very brief summarization of what we hope the John Birch Society will help and even sometimes lead the American people to accomplish during the next 15 years. One, our first and most important specific undertaking should be to restore the complete independence of the United States.
He wanted to accomplish all this in 15 years.
Our resolution to get us out of the United Nations and get the United Nations out of the United States.
By 1990, he wanted
we
this
must
done.
once again make our money freely redeemable in gold at some realistic price. And we must take all practicable legislative steps to prevent a recurrence of the enormous thievery and other subversive crimes that have been perpetrated on the American people through a contrived inflation by every president from Franklin Roosevelt through Richard Nixon. Three, we should reduce the number of government bureaus, of government civilian employees, and the whole quantity of government by at least 50%. And we should achieve at least this much reduction in proper fashion through gradually convincing a majority of the American people of the wisdom of such a course. Four, we should withdraw all American troops from every spot on earth that is not American soil, except when and where such troops may be required as decided by Congress to protect American lives and property from criminal vandalism. Five, we should get government out of the areas and functions and activities where government does not belong. Again, all steps to this end should be taken gradually, but nevertheless just as rapidly as enough of the American people can be persuaded to support such progress. Any such achievement will require a truly massive educational force, but that's exactly what we hope to build during the next 15 years. We could go ahead for at least 100 numbered items, but the John Birch Society will undoubtedly be working on more than that many specific projects, which will be laid out in its bulletins before another 180 months will have rolled around. And all of these projects will fit into the general pattern indicated by the 5 major objectives listed above. So let's really wind up this marathon monologue with one final thought. None of us can guarantee anything about what the future will bring. Your speaker knows what a job we have before us to rid our country of the scourge of communism within the next few years, and then to go ahead on our constructive program so well that 15 years from now, we shall already be entering an era of far less government, of a much sounder sense of responsibility, and, with God's help, of a better world. But I sincerely believe that it can be done, and this much I know, that every man and woman in this audience should leave here tonight feeling in his or her own mind and heart that it can and must be done, then it surely will be. And so, all of you patriots of good character, good conscience.
That's what he was telling people back in 1974. He wanted to accomplish.
I wonder how many of them he was able to accomplish.
Zip. Look. Look what we got. Bunch of Nazis running the whole goddamn planet.
Amazing how spot on he was 56 years ago. I mean, that is really amazing how spot on he was. And But the problem is how many people heard that speech until the internet came about? You may have been able to read about it in an encyclopedia or going to the John Birch Society, writing them a letter and saying, hey, can you send me your newspaper? But again, before the internet, how many people do you think heard that clip?
I don't know.
Not enough.
Not enough. He had a crowd full. I mean, he had an auditorium full of people just clapping and applauding and stuff. But
I wonder how he was able to figure it all out back 50-something years ago. I wonder.
It saddens me when I see stuff like this. It saddens me when I listen to Mae Brussels talk and know that she was talking the truth back then, and listen to Cooper talk and know that he was talking the truth back then, and nobody. Not enough, I'm not going to say nobody, not enough people gave it any weight, gave it any credence.
Crazy tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist. That's how mainstream media portrayed them. And because the newspaper said it, it's like Mark Twain said, if you don't read the newspaper, you're uninformed. If you read the newspaper, you're misinformed. So people were told what to think before the internet came out.
They're still told what to think because they don't pay attention, dude. They put up cat memes and that's it. Okay, we're off onto another tangent.
All right.
I'm actually going to read the story that you dropped me right before we went on the air.
Oh, isn't that weird?
This is just creepy, man. Okay. But I guess these people are all over the planet.
Yeah, it's not just here.
Yeah. This is out of WVEC. This is Norfolk,
That's my
Virginia.
local news. That's my local news station. Yeah. But I'm sure
this cat's
a local story wherever it was.
This cat's out of Tennessee, and this story came out of AP. It was off the AP wire. So this is Nashville, Tennessee. A Tennessee man's been charged with dismembering the body of a woman and eating part of her corpse, officials said Tuesday. Gregory S. Hale, 37, was arrested at his home Sunday and is charged with premeditated first-degree murder and abuse of a corpse. Coffee County District Attorney Mike Laney told the Associated Press. Hale confessed to killing the woman, according to the arrest warrant, which identified the woman as Lisa Marie Hyder. Hale told authorities that he beheaded Hyder, cut off her hands and feet, and placed the body parts in plastic buckets. According to the warrant, it says Hale buried the torso in a burn pile at his residence. He also admitted to eating part of the victim, according to the warrant. Laney said the neighbors told police they had a conversation with Hale and had reason to believe a homicide had been committed. Hale's being held in jail on a $1.5 million bond. His attorney did not immediately return calls to the AP. Can't believe any jackass would take this guy as a client. The Tullahoma News reported that Hyder was 36. That's the girl that he killed, I reckon. Mm-hmm. Coffee County Sheriff Steve Graves told the newspaper that Hyder had an ex-husband and children living in the area. Graves said that she apparently became acquainted with Hale, but there was no evidence that they were in a relationship or that she was living with him. That's the end of the article. I'm sure that's not the end of the story. So you keep your ear to the ground on this one, man, because I want to know who this...
That's weird.
Why
was he on drugs or...
Right. He looks. Right. I mean, he looks like a.
He looks pretty crazy.
Yeah. So I'm going to drop this into chat for everybody.
Charles Manson crazy.
Peruse. Yeah, it's a wonder he doesn't have a swastika in front of his.
Speaking of which, didn't he just get parole last week?
No, that was a big.
Was it a joke?
Goober, okay. Yeah, goober meme. Very, very strange times we're living in.
It is strange times we're living in. Whether the weirdness of people. The lack of empathy showed by people, the lack of personal space and caring about what other people, are going to think about their kids or, it just bothers me. I mean, it's...
Well, he obviously thought that he was going to get away with this because he cut her head, feet, and hands off.
Yeah.
And so he was going to, that's why they got him on premeditated. And 1.5 mil, I mean... he doesn't look like he can afford 150 grand. So I don't think he's
he
getting out
can't.
anytime soon. I don't think his family would bail him out. At least, not unless
with
they're
that
Manson
crime.
family or
Yeah.
the Munsters or, I don't know. But anyway, that's that. Very off-putting.
It's like Dick Cheney or Karl Rove bailing him out and going, that stuff's good, isn't it? Because, they eat baby. I think they do. I mean, they're fucking maniacal, warped.
Did you just drop the F-bomb on my show?
Nope. I just said, no, you can.
I heard it, man.
Later.
I got
No,
earphones on. I heard it.
Well, Dick Cheney and Karl Rove do that to me, so.
I'm just kidding. Okie dokie. You got anything else over there, man? Because if not, we're going to go down another rabbit hole.
I do have a question before you go off on that rabbit hole.
Okay.
Maybe you can answer it. While we were talking about us doing the retail story, and we were talking about Circuit City and everything else, people in the room were bringing up Sears and talking about Craftsman and everything else.
Yeah,
and I
saying
saw
it doesn't-
somebody
they're not-
in there
not
saying that
lifetime
they don't
warranty.
have a lifetime warranty anymore. And I need to know, is that true?
No, that's not true.
I
Sears
didn't think it
Craftsman tools, if it has Craftsman stamped on it, if it's a metal tool like the ratchets and wrenches, and they are lifetime warranty. As far as I know, I mean, I'll have to type it into Google. I might be wrong.
I did, and I couldn't find anything
That said that they were not.
That said that, it did say that if you bought a ratchet set that, wasn't Craftsman, I mean, that they're not going to replace it for you if it breaks or wrenches or anything like that.
But I'm guaranteeing you, you go pick up anything off the shelf, like a wrench or a ratchet or a socket or something like that, and it will say right on the package, lifetime warranty.
Well, that's why so many carpenters that I know buy Craftsman hammers, because, the wooden hammers,
Yeah.
because when it breaks, they just go get a brand new one.
Yeah.
So. I had a basin wrench. Do you know what a basin wrench is?
For under the sink.
Yes, it is absolutely, unequivocally, without a doubt, the coolest tool in the world that every guy or girl has to have in their toolbox, because you never know when you're going to need one. Craftsman made the coolest basin wrench in the world. But the problem is you only got about 30 uses out of it, turns before it started stripping, because the spring wasn't as tight. So after going back and getting mine replaced 2 times, I went back the 3rd time to get it replaced, and Craftsman quit making the part because they couldn't perfect it.
Son of a bitch.
Yep, and they said, we'll give you this cheap Chinese one that we have on the shelf, but it's the last one we're giving you because Craftsman just doesn't make the part anymore. They couldn't perfect it.
Well, poopy.
Yeah.
No
So
more. I guess you're just going to have to do it with a regular big old monkey wrench.
The other one's like more of a square, where the Craftsman one was shaped like a hooked finger, and it was so much better.
Mm-hmm. All righty. Down the rabbit hole we go.
All right.
I think it was last week. It might have even been Monday. I think it was last week, though. I think it was last Friday. You brought up a story about DHS
Yeah, it was Friday.
militarizing our police departments. And it was a pretty good article that you had. Kind of got my interest piqued. And I did a little digging, and I found some other information out. This is in the last 2 years, people. Most of these statistics are in the last 2 years. So since 2012. DHS has provided to local, state, and federal, or not state, local, state, and county 435 armored vehicles, 432 MRAPs. Those are other than the armored vehicles. So that's 867 armored vehicles to the authorities in this country in the last 2 years. They have also issued 44,900 FLIR units, 533 aircraft. That's not specific as to whether they were drones or helicopters or planes, but the federal government has given local authorities in the last 2 years 533 aircraft that we paid for. They have also given them 93,000 753 automatic weapons.
How many?
93,753 automatic weapons.
Oh, half of them probably didn't work. They were just for parts.
They have also issued 180,718 30-round and 100-round magazines.
Aren't those illegal?
You think? In the last 5 years, 38 state agencies have been given permission and issued silenced weapons from the federal government. I want to read that again so that you people hear it for sure. In the last 5 years, 38 state agencies in this country have been issued silenced weapons by the federal government. What do you think about those, Lance?
Well, I don't know. According to your tone, it sounds like you're anti-police. You don't want them to come home safe, and how can anybody be against the cops coming home? How are they supposed to protect us and make us safe without all that stuff?
What did Barry say when he was running for president? Military weapons don't belong on our streets in this country.
But then in a speech later that we needed to make our homeland security, or maybe that was Bush that said it. One of the presidents said it in a speech that our homeland security needed to be just as well funded, armed, and equipped as our military. One of the presidents said that in the speech. I thought it was. Okay,
that was Obama. Right. That was after he got into the Oval Office and started being able to do whatever he was told to do. That's when he came out with that speech.
You know, I'm almost okay hearing this story, because if there was ever a scenario where martial law, et cetera, anything came through, I think a lot of those people would take those weapons and those tanks and everything else and skedaddle because they know what's going on. I think there's enough of them awake.
To our side, you mean?
Yeah, to our side. I mean, I think there's enough of them awake. Maybe they would sabotage the vehicles, but I don't believe all of them would willingly, of course, if there's ever a real food shortage and they promised them food to do it for them and their family, that's a powerful tool.
You think you're going to see a MRAP rolling down the road with a big Guy Fawkes mask painted on the side of it?
I'm sure one day in my lifetime I'll see an MRAP or some kind of armored vehicle in my vicinity, whether it be the interstates, city roads. I think within my lifetime I'll see that.
Are you going to be face down on the front lawn with a bunch of weapons pointed at you and shit, man?
Probably. Probably.
But just,
they'll be coming to visit me. So
this is what blew me away, though, is the amount of stuff that I said. 44,000, almost 45,000 FLIR units. 93,000 automatic weapons they just gave them. 180,000 magazines, and some of them are 100-round drums.
I wonder how many politicians were tied to the companies that got the contracts to supply them to all the military people in war. I wonder the connection in that realm.
We paid for all this stuff, man.
You and I?
Tax money, yeah. So maybe that's where some of that banking fines were going to, right? Up-armoring the civilian.
Maybe we didn't pay for it all, yeah.
You know what this stuff is, people? All this crap that I just read off? This is a federal bribe to state, county, and local police departments. This is a bribe. They give them all this fancy shit And then when the feds want to come into their town and perform some kind of maneuver, they give them free reign. Red carpet, roll it out. Let's go jump in with them. Yeah, take a ride along, see how they do their deal. Let's go do some no-knocks.
You know what's interesting, though, is that if they ever got serious about gun control, gun grab, etc., something like that, they would need most of that equipment that you just named off to pull that off.
That's not going to help them. That's not going to help them. Unless they intend on driving the MRAP through your freaking house. You know what I mean? Eventually there's going to be boots on the ground, people walking through doors, taking shots, you know? So that's another thing. I mean, I didn't even get into the body armor and shit. They've given away thousands and thousands of sets of body armor.
Yeah, flak vests and stuff like that.
Yeah. You know, helmets, all the Kevlar helmets and shit that these cats wear, they're all military grade Kevlar. They're all military issue, probably never been used before, not military surplus. They're probably brand new issue.
I mean, just like the military, I'm not opposed to police wearing body armor. I mean, you know, for
if
the
they're
good
going
ones
on
out
a gang
there,
service, if they're going on a warrant service or something like that, yeah.
Nah. What about the guy sitting in CC's Pizza in Las Vegas that got shot? I mean,
obviously they didn't shoot him in the chest, dude. They pumped him in the head.
But like I'm saying, it's it's for the random things. I think the body armor is just like the military. I mean, for the good cops out there,
there's all kinds of cops getting sniped every day, right? Yeah, sure.
Well,
the only time cops are getting shot at is when they're doing shit illegal or when they're going after a bunch of gangbangers. Because they're not over in Fallujah.
No, but you've got more and more crazies that are doing, crazy cop killings, and it's not the answer. I mean, we talked about that the other night, but no fun. Mm-hmm. That's a vast amount of armament, for sure.
It is. We're into the second hour, so I'm going to go ahead and tell everybody the phones are open for the second hour. 718-717-8296 or ucy.tv. I'm on the network tonight. If you've got us on your friends list or you want to add into the call, 718-717-8296. Open phones, ucy.tv. Okay. You got anything else over there on your desk, man, that you want to get off your chest? You want to continue talking about all this crap that we bought for these cops, and why they should be kissing our boots and licking our boots?
Well, I'd like to see if anybody,
when they're rolling down the road in their MRAP and they get ready to raid your house, say, "Hey, I paid for that."
I haven't seen any. I mean, I haven't seen any MRAPs on the street. I haven't heard of our police department getting any tanks
Either.
So, I mean, if anybody has or they've seen it, I'd like them to call in and tell me about it because, I mean, okay, all these police departments are getting them, but where? I mean, I just don't see it.
Well, I've seen it. I mean, Brandon Tuberville talked about, a little town up in Iowa got one. It was only about 7,000 or 8,000 people in the town. There's
the Neenah, Missouri one or whatever it was. Wisconsin was our story. Remember that we did that?
Well, no, Brandon Tuberville had one too.
Yep.
He did one Monday, I think. So, I mean, there's just all kinds of there's stories out there, and you see the write-ups in the paper all the time. They got the cops are all standing in front of their new shit. Hey, we got an MRAP, Or they got other little ones too, just armored vehicles, anything. They got armored Humvees that they're selling them all. Not selling them, they're giving them. But it's whatever. Uncalled for. It's completely uncalled for. They're prepping for something. They know that there's a shitstorm coming because this can't continue. The whole Wall Street crap that we talk about every week that makes me lose listeners or whatever because people are sick of hearing about it. Well, guess what? It affects you every day. We're trying to prove it. The dollar's going to collapse. It can't keep going the way it's going. The Fed can't keep printing the money that they're printing because all the people that own our debt all over the planet are getting sick of their dollars getting devalued. And so are the people in this country, for fuck's sake. I'm tired of paying $4 or $5 for a goddamn gallon of milk.
And a gallon of gas.
Yeah, $3, $4, almost $4 now. It's $3. Well, it went down a little bit. It's like $3.60 something around here for a gallon of gas. When Bronco took office, it was $1.80 for shit's
a pound
sake.
of hamburgers more than a gallon of gas now.
Absolutely. It's ridiculous. Look at, I mean, we could just keep going and going and going, man. I don't want to rant on this shit. I mean, we talk about it every freaking week. Why aren't people paying attention?
And if you notice, if you really do pay attention when you go to the grocery stores, the boxes, may have stayed the same size, but there's less food in there.
The
weight went down, right?
It's called hidden inflation. We talk about that all the time. It's called hidden inflation.
And it's happened. I mean, you see a lot of
people try to buy a gallon of
redesign their packages, so it appears larger than it is and a different shape. They're trying everything.
Go try to buy a gallon of bleach, man. You cannot buy a gallon bottle anymore. They're all 3 quarts. And it's the same fucking price as it was when they were gallon bottles. They're 3-quart bottles now. Look at them.
Why in the hell hadn't a 2-liter bottle of nasty, cancer-causing Pepsi and Coke?
99 cents, brother.
What the hell is wrong with that?
99 cents. Sometimes you can get them 3 for 1.
Yeah.
Because that pallet's been sitting outside in the sun for 2.5 weeks, and they can't sell the shit. And all the EPA's leached out of the plastic already, so they want to hurry up and get rid of it.
But you talked about milk earlier. I mean, I'm opposed to drinking milk. We are the only mammal on the planet that still drinks from a mammary gland after weaning. So
I like my chocolate milk, man.
We're the only. You don't
give milk. A poo. I like my chocolate milk. You can talk.
Babies need milk.
Whatever.
I don't drink milk.
If I could get chocolate milk from a boob, I would do it the natural way. But you can't. So there you go.
Well, if you're going to put chocolate in it, you can get soy milk or something like that too.
That is disgusting. Have you ever drank soy milk, man?
Almond milk with chocolate.
That is disgusting. You're a sick man. Something wrong with you. Get back on your meds.
Oh yeah, that was my timer that went off earlier. I need to go ahead and take them real quick.
Go. What you got another story? Because I got a couple here that I want to go to.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okie dokie. Well, you want to talk about the school shooting in Oregon? It being a super huge false flag and stuff. I mean, they're going to drop a school shooting every week now, folks. I mean, there's going to be some kind of random. It might not be a school shooting, but there's going to be a random shooting maybe 2 times a week now until they try to get this goddamn UN bill, small arms bill passed or whatever. It's coming. They're going to come for the guns, man. And then that's Katie bar the door, people. Katie bar the door.
Well, I'd also hope that you would mention that more stuff is coming out about this Las Vegas thing where they really didn't have a suicide pact.
No.
The guy was shot by a police officer and not the lady, and they fabricated most of the stuff that they went on TV and said within a short time frame after this and gave out misinformation knowingly and willingly.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes,
that's what I'm saying.
It falls right on the school stuff that you're talking about.
Yeah, 2 seconds after the school shooting thing in Oregon, Bronco was on TV saying, gun control, God damn it. It's just ridiculous. They got the same mantra. Look, the gun didn't kill the fucking guy. The dude holding the gun killed the guy. It's not about the gun. It's about the dude. What's wrong with the dude? What was up with the dude? Was the dude on SSRIs? Was the dude on some kind of mental trip? Was he seeing a psychologist? How did he get the gun? Did he buy the gun legally? Did he steal the gun? It had nothing to do with the gun. It has to do with the guy behind the trigger. All you shitheads on Capitol Hill that are bitching about gun control have armed fucking security around you 24 hours a day. And most of you have concealed carry permits, you hypocrite assholes.
If it was really about that, about the sanctity of preserving life so not another needless person needs to get killed, et cetera,
then stop the war.
Then, no, well, wars for one, but why is alcohol legal? Why are cigarettes legal?
No, hey.
Those kill more.
Why don't they ban cars because of drunk drivers? Why don't they ban forks because they make people fat?
Or McDonald's.
Shoveling food in their mouth.
McDonald's is costs more lives, and I can't definitively say that, but I do know cigarettes and alcohol cause more deaths than, and GMOs cause more death than guns do.
More people
why aren't we going on
here in the United States by bee stings than are by guns. That is a fact.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're not going to jump on that story no more. I don't want to go off on a rant about that. Here's something I do want to rant about for a minute though. I don't know how many people caught this earlier today, but I tweeted it out. 5 U.S. Special Forces were killed by friendly fire in Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this wasn't just people shooting at each other. This was a B-1 bomber that dropped several tons of ordnance on these 5 individuals and turned them into vapor. So they're not going to be coming home to their folks. They're not going to be getting buried in a box. Well, they'll probably stick a box in a hole in the ground, but there's not going to be anything in it. These guys were turned into vapor. U.S. Defense Department officials have anonymously confirmed to AP that 5 ISAF servicemen killed by friendly fire in southern Afghanistan were actually American soldiers. This could become the worst friendly fire incident in 13 years of the Afghan war. On Tuesday, international coalition officials confirmed that 5 servicemen died on Monday in what appeared to be a friendly fire incident, without giving the details or disclosing the nationalities of the deceased. Reportedly, the servicemen came into contact with adversaries in Arghandab district of Zabul province and came under fire, an airstrike alongside the enemy forces. Came under airstrike alongside the enemy forces. Okay, I didn't think that's what it was. I thought they dropped them on the wrong. I guess they were close, too close, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. It'll pan out. The soldiers who died in the incident allegedly called in the airstrike that killed them. ISAF troops were returning to their bases after operations when they were ambushed by the insurgents. The airstrike mistakenly hit their own forces and killed the soldiers, shared local police chief Ghulam Saki Ragalawani. Qari Youssef, a spokesman for the Taliban movement, claimed that a group of insurgents engaged with the ISAF unit when the assault helicopters got into combat and mistakenly attacked the foreign unit. Oh, that didn't make any sense to me. The casualties occurred during a security operation when their unit came into contact with enemy forces. Tragically, there is the possibility that fratricide may have been involved. That, by the way, is friendly fire, fratricide. The incident is under investigation. Our thoughts are with the families of those killed during this difficult time, you scumbag. The Pentagon statement said investigators are looking into the likelihood that friendly fire was the cause. A friendly fire incident of similar scale took place over a decade ago in 2002 when an F-16 fighter dropped a bomb on a group of Canadian soldiers near the nighttime firing exercise in southern Kandahar. That was an exercise, and they killed some Canadians. The incident has brought the total 2014 deaths in coalition forces to 36. Of those, 8 service personnel were killed in June. If proved true, this could become probably the worst coalition-friendly fire loss of soldiers in nearly 13 years. We've been in that country for 13 years, wasting time and money and lives. Taliban and al-Qaeda forces in Afghanistan, just a month ahead of the majority of foreign troops withdrawing from the country. Yeah. Couldn't hold on for a couple more months, huh? Had to kill them now. But this was a B-1B, from what I heard on RT. And it dropped 6,000 pounds of munitions. Unbelievable, man.
Interesting times. Interesting times.
Why are we still there? Why are we still there? Seriously. I mean, why are we still there? We haven't done anything except destroy that country and create more enemies. will never kill the Taliban off, never, because they're in several thousands of towns and all over the world. Why are we there? I don't understand it. They really got that much gold? I mean, is the poppies really worth that? I guess the poppies are like, what, 1.6 billion? You know, they're getting ready to have the harvest over there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Iran has now put 12,000 troops on their border with Afghanistan to try to stop the Underground Railroad of all the heroin coming out of Afghanistan and trying to make it onto the world market. Because that's like their route right through Iran. Interesting. But anyway, I did want to hit that story. Let's see what else. Oh, the London mayor is going to pull up the spikes. He issued an order to pull up the homeless spikes. Doesn't like them. Didn't like the whole bad.
Didn't like the bad press they were getting about it.
All over Facebook, all over Twitter, Instagram. It was all over social media, just berating those jackasses for putting metal spikes in the road.
Mm-hmm.
Underneath the trolley system, all underneath. I mean, it was just ridiculous. That one guy was trying to walk to work and he was tripping over the shit. Let's see. Oh, here's another good one. This is always, I love sticking potatoes real. The Israeli killing of Palestinian teens is an apparent war crime, the Human Rights Watch said. The killing of 2 Palestinian teenagers by Israeli military forces on May 15th. I know you people saw the video. The videos went viral. Those kids were just walking down the side of that building and got popped by a sniper. Muhammad Abdu Tahar, 16, and Nadim Nawara, 17, were both shot dead by Israeli troops as the pair protested the ongoing occupation of Palestinian lands. Footage, photographs, witness statements, and medical records indicate that the Israeli military forces used live ammo against the boys and 15-year-old Mohammed Azza, who was also seriously wounded in the incident. Human Rights Watch said in a report entitling it The Killing of Children, Apparent War Crimes, and that was released on Monday. The Israeli military said it did not use live fire during the demonstration, only rubber bullets and tear gas, adding that it did not have an immediate reaction to the report. Naturally. There is video in this too. I'll drop this in the chat for everybody, in case you haven't seen it. Footage retrieved from security cameras on Palestinian property near the scene of the alleged shooting shows the 2 teenagers hitting the ground at separate times, apparently shot despite posing no immediate threat to the Israeli troops. They didn't have anything in their hands. All they had was their little wrap around their face so they could hide their identity from them, right? That's it. They were just walking, and they were shot dead. The willful killing of civilians by Israeli security forces as part of the occupation is a war crime, said Sarah Leigh Wiston, a Middle Eastern and North African director for Human Rights Watch. She added that the Israeli military claim it did not use live ammunition on May 15th does not stand up to scrutiny, and that Israel must prosecute those who shot the teenagers and any military officials who ordered the use of the live rounds. Offenses committed by Israeli security forces as part of the occupation, such as deliberate attack on civilians, would be subject to prosecution under international humanitarian laws as war crimes, Human Rights Watch said. Israeli forces have repeatedly shot Palestinians who pose no imminent threat with live ammunition during similar protests, including an April 4th demonstration in the same location, and the Israeli military has a poor record of bringing soldiers to justice for these acts. The Israeli military said it is investigating the incident, though Defense Minister Moshe Yaalon said he suggested the surveillance footage could have been manufactured. Naturally. Human rights organizations that distribute the videos deny any doctoring. The report also said that Palestinians who attempted to aid Nawara were fired on with rubber bullets from Israeli forces. A fire projectile struck the head of a Palestinian medic who was wearing a bright orange vest to indicate that he was a humanitarian. The protest where the killings took place was part of a demonstration across the West Bank marking Nakba Day, Nakba Day, when Palestinians commemorate the confiscation of homes in the 1948 war that led to the creation of the State of Israel and the displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. Though the protest where the Tahrir and Nawara were killed was at times violent, Palestinian use threw rocks at Israeli forces. The security footage suggested no stone throwing was occurring when the two teenagers were shot. And it's very evident in the video there was nothing happening. They were of no threat to those men. And even if they were throwing rocks, they were throwing rocks. Don't shoot them. You
would think.
Pieces of shit.
You would think.
I can't stand that.
The whole thing over there gets a bad rap in the mainstream media, or actually a good rap in the mainstream media's eyes.
It's no play.
Yeah, exactly. And they're doing the same amount of atrocities that we've done across the planet. So why isn't it? Or if somebody we don't like does an atrocity, we jump all over that and stay on it for 30 days.
We fund this.
True.
We give the military, the Israeli military wouldn't exist if it wasn't for all the money that we goddamn shovel them every day.
And equipment. I mean, we give them a lot of their equipment, their planes and
nuclear weapons.
Mm-hmm.
They make their own guns now, man. They got all the technology and shit over there. We gave them all that, so they make their own guns and stuff now.
Mm-hmm.
It's genocide. It's apartheid. It's extermination of a race of people. It's the theft of all of their land. If you people go back to the 1948, wasn't it 1948?
Yep.
Go back and look at those maps. Go back and look at the map in 1948. Look at how big Israel was and look at how big Palestine was. And then follow that forward over the years and look at how much land Israel has stolen from those people. Killed them, destroyed their water, destroyed their crops. Everything that's of any value. Trying to exterminate the Palestine people.
That's for sure. And we let them get away with it.
Oh, I think we talked about this on Monday. The police are probing links between suspected Vegas cop killers and Bundy Ranch supporters. Didn't you talk about that, Lance? Didn't you say that was coming?
Yeah, we talked about it. And again, I just dropped that link in the chat for Jules because she said she hadn't seen the part where it wasn't the lady that killed the guy, but it was the cops. And even CNN is, it may not be the first place I read it, but when I did a quick Google, that was the main one that popped up. So, I mean, it's that misinformation. It's disinformation or misinformation. I'm not sure. Disinformation, I guess. And, we talked about that it's an agenda for gun control. That's what every single one of these are going to be. That's why Eric Holder put together his, what do you call it? Anti-terrorism task force.
Yeah, 1.5 billion dollars are going to put on.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was, but he says that they have to be, more so increasingly aware of radical, homegrown people that are using the internet to, gather and whatnot. So, I mean, again, they're just biting at the bit to come down and get people like that before they pull off a heist that was probably pre-engineered by them anyway.
Mm-hmm. Where's that link at? I don't see it anywhere in chat, man.
No, you'd have to roll up. It's to CNN. In fact, I can drop it in Skype because it's actually a decent one here.
Yeah, I want to read it.
Yeah, there you go. I dropped it in the Skype for you.
Where?
Oh, I dropped that to Chuck. I was actually talking with him earlier, too. Hold on. But I did drop a line in there, that a story that you and I had talked about off air, if you still had that, because that was pretty alarming if you still have that story around. It's right there in Skype.
I got that. Okay. Yeah, the one about the veteran suicides outnumbering the people killed in combat.
Hey, man, I'm telling you, that is so disturbing on so many levels. It made my heartstrings pull, because here are these kids that go over there, but we'll get into it later.
Gunman in Vegas rampage was killed by police. This is from CNN.
There's multiple sources saying it, but that was the first one that popped up when I did my search.
Sheriff's deputies delivered the fatal wound that killed a man who, along with his wife, gunned down 2 police officers and a civilian in Las Vegas on Sunday. Sheriff's Department officials said on Wednesday. Authorities had earlier said that the woman had shot and killed her husband before taking her own life, but Assistant Sheriff Kevin McMahill, that's a really weird name, told reporters Wednesday that the review of forensic evidence at the scene and the autopsy results showed that the police fatally wounded the gunman. We made a determination that she did not shoot him. He did suffer a gunshot wound, and we believe the entrance wound was here, McMahill said, pointing to his own collarbone. In fact, he said, the fatal wound was delivered from a rifle fired by police. We do not believe any of her shots hit him. I think they're just trying to toot their own horn, yeah?
Don't know. One of them said that the bullet was a .223 that shot him, and it wasn't the kind of gun that she had. And, there's the truth from their side. There's their side, there's our side, and then there's the truth. And
let's see. In the Walmart security video, released by police, the Millers are seen in their final moments. They are lying wounded in an aisle with various store items around them. Police say they used for cover. They hold firearms they point at each other, and at the end of the video, Amanda Miller turns a gun on herself. I didn't see the video. Did they have that?
Neither. They didn't post it.
No, I guess not.
Because it would show what actually happened, so they can't show that.
Yeah.
Which this is a strange one to vary off of the path that we've seen a lot of them lately, because a lot of these killings lately have been on military installations or somewhere where cameras weren't allowed to be in. Mm-hmm. So why aren't we seeing more camera coverage?
Mm-hmm. I'm reading through this a little bit. Not really. I mean, it's all the basic information that we already know.
Yeah, it is. The only part that I that kind of varied from the other stuff, I think that they didn't really have a deep affiliation with Tea Party movement, but they said right away, and Harry Reid, within very short, limited amount of time, before really they'd had any amount of time to do any research, blamed it on the Bundy. His people had blamed him on being at the Bundy Ranch and everything else. So, again, it's kind of like the Boston bombing. How are you going to get this information so quick when it just happened? How are you coming to these conclusions so quick when it just happened?
Right.
Because you had advanced knowledge.
Right. Kelly Fielder, one of the suspects, said one of the suspects, Amanda Miller, was one of her best friends. The Millers were staying with her for about 2 weeks before the shooting. She saw them leave on that fateful day, armed to the teeth. There were 2 duffel bags in a cart. They had 2 duffel bags on their backs, Fielder said. She just hugged me and said, "I love you, thank you for everything." She said she never thought they were planning a carnage. She said, "I was stupid, I guess," Fielder said. "I've got 5 deaths on my shoulders. I should have called the cops," she said, crying. "I'm so, so sorry to everybody. I'm so sorry."
I think she would have had a death on her own hands, her death, if she would have asked what was in those bags.
Mm-hmm. Police believe the couple acted alone now and targeted the officers at random. I thought they said that they were part of this big cult going to try to take over the government.
Yeah, see, and that's where the disinformation just keeps coming up and up and up.
Yeah.
And the Tea Party trying to be villainized and
blah, 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 blah.
Which that Eric Cantor story is actually a pretty big one, with a lot of implications coming up because of it. You know, Eric Cantor, the guy that sits next to Boehner and was supposed to take Boehner's place, and a Tea Party person beat him out in a primary last night. That it's actually, you know, pretty bad, I think, for it to happen. Not that I like Cantor. I think he was a piece of crap. But now, you know, the Republicans were whipped for that budget talk. So now I think we'll start hearing about government shutdowns and everything like that again. So maybe it's all planned so they can start talking about that crap again.
Yeah. Marine Le Pen.
All by design.
Yeah. Marine Le Pen got elected over in France, right? I think they had the elections, right? Didn't she get in? I know she's running. I think she got in. I think she was elected. Anyway, she was on RT with Sophie Shevardnadze. Dude, I don't know. I passed you that interview. I don't know if you watched it or not. Very good interview. It was done in French, but there were subtitles. You know, there was somebody talking the whole time, telling you what they were saying. But she is completely anti-EU. She wants to get France out of the EU altogether. She said that they're nothing but debt. It's nothing but, you know, giving your money over to some invisible man that's going to tell you how to live your life, and it's usually not the way you want to live your life. You know, she said, who the hell is this invisible man? I think that there's, I mean, this awakening, I don't think it's going to be quick enough because this shit's getting ready to hit the fan.
Yeah, I don't think we got enough time,
Yeah, but they're waking up. These people are waking up. Even people in authority are starting to wake up. You know, there's some people are figuring it out, that this is all a bunch of bullshit, that you don't get, you know, you're not born into slavery, which is exactly what we are right now. We're born into slavery. We're a slave to the dollar. The national debt, what they're telling the people is 17 trillion, almost. I mean, it's pushing 18 trillion now. That means that your kid is about 50K in debt when he comes out, you know, before they even take their first breath. It's ridiculous. It's unsustainable. We've been talking about it for a year, over a year. This is completely unsustainable, people.
Well, I mean, people talked about it in 06, 07, saying a crash was coming, and then look what happened.
The times are worse now.
Yeah, exactly. Worse. And then they just tried to artificially prop it up. So, I mean, the same people that predicted the fall in 08 are still giving us the same dire warnings, but again, this time there's not going to be the easy out like there was last time. You can't just throw money at it and make it go delayed. Of course, that's what they're doing now. Come on, look. I mean, throw enough money at it, it's still going. If the stock market's doing good, we're doing good. So
whatever.
And you're just un-American if you think different.
718-717-8296. 25 minutes left. If anybody wants to chime in, phones are wide open. I don't think I missed a call. I didn't see nothing pop up on my screen.
I mean, who are we going to threaten next?
Oh.
Oh, dude.
Hang on a second.
Because you still got that veteran story.
I just tried to Google it. I couldn't find the one I was talking about.
Oh, the story.
Retail sales warranties for hand tools of Craftsman. Craftsman hand tools labeled hand tool full warranty in warranty header. Craftsman AccuCut, hacksaws, handy cut, utility knives, snip bolts, cutters. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, anything that is labeled hand tool full warranty. If the Craftsman hand tool ever fails to provide complete satisfaction, it will be replaced or repaired free of charge. This warranty does not cover expandable parts that can wear out from normal use within the warranty period. Got that?
So they've changed that. Because it used to be a no questions asked. I mean, you walked in with a Craftsman part, and that's it. It used to be.
Mm-hmm. You're right. Torque wrenches are down to 1 year. see.
So what happened? Are they built somewhere else? Are they built with less alloy? Or are they built? I mean, why? Aren't they standing behind it any longer? Well, obviously
because they're probably
model
losing
didn't
their
pay
ass.
off. Yeah. Yeah, obviously that business model didn't pay off very well.
Anything not labeled full hand tool full warranty is down to 1 year. And it is at their discretion.
Right. If they think that you intentionally did it or misused the part from, it's like using the right tool for the job. I mean, if you used a screwdriver as a hammer and you broke the handle or, used a screwdriver as a pry bar to pry up metal alloy rods. I mean,
Craftsman professional and Craftsman industrial hand tools, mechanics tool sets, sockets, ratchets, and drive tools, wrenches, non-torque, auto specialty, and non-electrical and non-hydraulic tools. If this hand tool ever fails to provide complete satisfaction, it will be repaired or replaced free of charge. So, the majority of their mechanics tools, wrenches, sockets, ratchets, still have the full warranty.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, the people that I see that go to all the mechanic shops, dealerships, is Snap-on Tools or Mac Tools.
Yeah,
those are the two trucks that I see riding around town all the time.
Yeah, if you're sitting on a fat-ass wallet.
Well,
those tools cost a mint.
Every dealership that I've ever worked at, and I was in the car business for 10 years, those people would come and they would sell you product, cleaners, tools. I mean, they would sell good stuff. But you're right, it was expensive. But those, I'm sure, have all lifetime warranties on them, too, for the cost that you're going to pay.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Okay. That was just, I wanted to cover that. I saw Jules drop that to me, and she also dropped me a cowbell link. I don't know.
Who?
A cowbell link.
What is that?
It's from soundeffectscenter.com. It is a cowbell. Several hits is what it says. Wow, it's taking a long time to upload. I hope this isn't an NSA spyware program. No, I'm just...
Oh, you got a Mac. Don't worry about it. It's too secure.
What?
So you couldn't find the veteran story?
How do you play this thing, kid? How do you play this thing?
For a sound effect.
Musical instruments. Download MP3 right there. Click. That's pretty cool. I'll have to come back to this center and see if I can get these down and put them on like a little player where I can...
Oh, a whole bunch of different sound effects?
Yeah, just reach up there and start clicking on them. Yeah, that's cool.
Like a toilet flushing when we start talking about...
Yeah, she gave me the wah-wah one.
The wah-wah.
Yeah, cowbell and wah-wah. Wow, it takes forever to get this thing loaded down. I wonder why. I'm not running a whole lot of other stuff.
You got a Mac. That's what.
Shut it. Anyway, while we're waiting for the cowbell to load, we'll play some cowbell after this. Here's one I want to touch on really quick. We still got 20 minutes left, so this ought to be good. This is actually going, this is a backwards flop to something that we were discussing earlier. The Obama administration may be looking for an example in Australia as the White House considers potential new firearms laws for the United States in the wake of the latest in a series of devastating school shootings. U.S. President Barack Obama cited gun rules in America's own down-under ally during remarks that were broadcast on the web Tuesday afternoon, only hours after the gunman entered a high school in Portland, Oregon, and opened fire, killing one student.
He was speaking in Australia?
No, he was speaking of Australia. My biggest frustration so far, this is a quote, my biggest frustration so far is the fact that this society has not been willing to take some basic steps to keep our guns out of the hands of people who can't just do unbelievable damage. We're the only developed country on the earth where this happens. Are you crazy? That was nice. Right on.
Prize winner.
Obama needs more cowbell. We're going to go ahead and stop that for a minute. Okay, back to the story. We're the only developed country on the earth where this happens. Do you not watch the news, Obama? Do you not watch the news? Norway. It happened in Norway not too long ago. Anders Aaron Breivik, I think was the guy's name, right? Because they had him plastered all over the media for 3, 4, 5 days. Some neo-Nazi freak, right? That's what they passed him off as, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, back to this flop talking. And it happens now once a week, and it's a one-day story. There's no place like this, the president said. A couple of decades ago, Australia had a mass shooting similar to the Columbine in Newtown, and Australia just said, well, that's it, we're not doing it, we're not going to see that again, and basically imposed a very severe, tough gun laws that they haven't had a mass shooting since. I mean, our levels of gun violence are off the charts. There's no other advanced developed country on earth that would put up with this, Obama added. Not only did the mass shooting stop in Australia, they went down tremendously. That's true. That's not a fallacy. That's true. But break-ins went up like 400%.
Yeah, people didn't have a gun to protect themselves.
Yeah. Physical attacks, assaults, homicides went up exponentially since the gun law was enacted in Australia. I guess you forgot all that. The president was likely
that too.
Right. The president was likely referring to a 96 rampage near Port Arthur prison colony in southeastern Tasmania, Australia, which Martin Bryant, 28, killed 35 people and wounded 23 others during an hours-long shooting spree. Upon the overwhelming support of the Australian population, the 96 National Firearms Agreement was passed soon after, in turn outlawing long-barreled semi-automatic guns and establishing a 28-day wait period for firearm purchases. The government also began a massive mandatory buyback program that had reported to have cut in half the number of gun-owning households. Upwards of 95% of Australians polled after the Port Arthur massacre said they favored more stringent gun laws like these, and mass shootings have not occurred in the continent in the nearly 2 decades since. Overall, the firearm homicides and firearm suicide rates have been trending steadily downwards through the 1980s and early 90s, but the fall accelerated after the buyback. Analyzing variations in the amount of guns turned in for the buyback between states, we again found the same result. In states where more firearms were bought back, there was a bigger drop in gun deaths, Andrew Lay said, the Assistant Treasury spokesperson for Labour opposition in Australia. In the decade and a half since the Australian gun buyback, the number of firearms per person has stayed constant, and the gun deaths have remained thankfully low. If a buyback program and the introduction of new laws were considered in the U.S., the same effect seen in Australia would mean that as many as 40 million firearms would be taken away. Nevertheless, public support for this in the states is far from what was evident in Port Arthur massacre, Australia, after the Port Arthur massacre in Australia. After 24 people were left dead in 2012, a mass shooting occurred at a high school in Newtown, Connecticut. Only 52% of Americans surveyed by the Washington Post and ABC said that they favored stringent gun laws. A year later, those wanting reform were once again in the minority. On Tuesday, White House Principal Deputy Press Secretary Josh Earnest, these people are just coming out of the woodwork, aren't they, told reporters that the president's goal is to look for opportunities to act administratively, unilaterally, using his executive authority to try to make our communities safer. What a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
The administration says hurdles, however, have been the result of lawmakers who want little or nothing to do with the White House's efforts. We were always looking for those opportunities, Ernst said, but none of those opportunities, when they present themselves, is going to be acceptable substitute for robust legislative action. If public opinion does not demand change in Congress, it will not change. What?
What the hell are you talking about? There's lots of public opinion that they don't even look at. Right. I can't wait to add into this when you're done.
President Obama said during Tuesday's question and answer session hosted by the White House's Tumblr, "We don't have enough tools right now to make as big a dent as we need to." The question I think really facing lawmakers right now is what common sense steps can Democrats and Republicans take to reduce the likelihood of gun violence, added Ernst. And there are some, and they have unfortunately been bottled up in Congress. That is a disappointment to the president, but not going to stop the president from continuing to push for administrative steps that we can take to help reduce gun violence. Yada, 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 yada. Go ahead, Lance.
I guess on Obama's first comment about we're the only industrialized nation that this happens in, or, whatever he said there, and in comparing us to Australia, their government isn't nearly as sadistic, narcissistic, evil, wanting so much
because
control.
We haven't pushed the American empire on them quite as heavily.
Exactly. So, people don't fear their government over there as a lot of the people over here don't trust their government. Yes, Australia's got many problems. Yes, Australia's got political scandals, but they're not quite like ours.
Here's the thing. I don't need weapons because I fear of being caught in a school shooting. I don't need weapons because I fear that I'm going to be caught in any kind of mass shooting where Bonnie and Clyde come driving through the forest and unload on my house. I fear my government. I fear the tyrannical aspect that my government has taken toward the people in this country. And the very reason that we have the Second Amendment is for that. Correct?
Oh, yeah. Australia's police force isn't militarized to the teeth like ours are, and go through the streets with driving tanks and MRAPs and walking down like they're in Fallujah.
And I don't see stories about them shooting dogs or
It just doesn't happen over there.
Right.
So, yeah, you're right. I mean, the Second Amendment is for the protection of a free state. And, define a free state. Well, who's going to take over a state that would need protecting? Well, that would be the federal government. They're the only ones that have the ability to make somebody not a free state. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it was put in there for, a tyrannical government when they try to take the free will of a state over.
All right. Jules just dropped me something else. I love my boss. She's so cool. This is a 5-minute clip, actually, of the former Australian Prime Minister John Howard and what he had to say on gun control. And this was recorded January 21st of last year. So let's give this a listen really quick and see what the Prime Minister had to say. Former Prime Minister.
My central argument was that it's the ready availability of automatic and semi-automatic weapons that is the big problem. Because if you have immediately at hand a weapon that can kill a lot of people in a short period of time, what then happens is that an impulse, a hateful impulse, is turned into a murderous assault. And although issues like mental health and background checks are very important, and I don't suggest otherwise, the key thing in the Australian experience is that if you remove these lethal automatic and semi-automatic weapons, the murder rate from the use of guns does decline. Because, put frankly, it's easier to kill 10 people with a gun than it is with a knife. Let me make it clear, I don't come in any way to lecture the President of the United States or the American Congress. Americans will decide how to handle this issue, and as somebody who is a long-time admirer and friend of the United States and so much of what is good about that fantastic country, I'm not setting myself up as a judge. All I'm doing is providing information as to what happened in Australia and what worked in Australia, recognising that there is a vast difference between the constitutional history of America and that of Australia. The British gave us our independence.
So he should stop right there.
We took it peacefully. We had a vote on the Constitution. It's a bit different when you look at the history of America. I'm aware of that.
Okay, they're posing questions. That's what I was watching the chat room, and the last time it went silent, I was like, what happened? But they're posing questions to him. This next question that he's getting ready to answer is, will Sandy Hook be a defining episode in the gun control debate?
Quite frankly, I don't know. But what I do know is that it's had a very traumatic effect on America, and it saddened the whole world. There were so many young children. I mean, there's nothing quite so gripping and heart-wrenching than the reality that up to 20 children around the ages of 5, 6, 7 and 8 was murdered in cold blood. I mean, that is as grim as it gets.
Next question is Charles Krauthammer. Is Charles Krauthammer right to say that unless you disarm the citizenry and repeal the Second Amendment, it is almost impossible to pass a law that would be effective? Roll forward.
I have an enormous respect for Charles Krauthammer. I think he's a great writer and an intellect. I see him often on Fox News as a regular contributor. That's his view of the difficulties in America, and I'm neither going to agree with it nor disagree with it, because he knows a lot more about American political conditions than I do. But what I can say that in the Australian experience, back in 1996, most people at the time doubted that we could establish an effective prohibition on automatic and semi-automatic weapons. We didn't confiscate every weapon, but what we did was to impose a nationwide ban backed by a buyback, which was the equivalent of 40 million guns adjusted for America's population, and it was funded by a temporary tax levy that most people supported very strongly. Now, that did work. We were able to do it because the moment was seized. I was leading a new government with a big majority, and we were able to get the cooperation, albeit reluctantly in certain circumstances of the states, but with fantastic help from our National Party colleagues, Tim Fisher and John Anderson and Rob Borbidge, the then Premier of Queensland. It was very tough on them, but they saw the national interest and they supported it very strongly.
Should gun control be viewed as an ideological issue?
I think the use of a label like left and right when you're dealing with the safety of the community. I mean, we all believe in safety, whether we're conservatives or, in the American parlance, liberal. I mean, I'm an economic liberal and a social conservative. We all believe in the safety of our families. We all want it. I mean, there's a bipartisan consensus, surely, that in any decent civilised society, you should be able to go about your daily life without fear of wanton arbitrary murder. And unfortunately, when you have mass killings, that is not the case.
That was from the United States Studies Center at the University of Sydney. So there you go. That's straight from the Prime Minister, former Prime Minister of Australia. That's his view on it. Sounds like a freaking politician to me. Yeah? Anybody? Sounds like a politician to me.
Oh, yeah, he's full of it.
All the way to the eyeballs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when he started out saying great friend, great country, etc., etc., I mean, it sure sounded like a rim job to the fullest. So, yeah, nah. As soon as he started saying that, I was like, well, I can't put any faith in anything he says after this.
Mm-hmm. Very, she dropped another one that said this is even better. He praises the gun control, which led to the gun ban, gun buyback, blah, 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 blah. Okay. I think we had enough of that. We only got 4 minutes left. So
I thought I saw a
spewing any more
meme.
shit.
I thought I saw a meme and I thought it was Lee Camp. I'll have to find this. He says, just because I want sensible gun control doesn't mean I'm anti-gun, just like wanting sensible traffic laws doesn't make me anti-car.
Exactly.
And I want to say it was Lee Camp that put that out today. So, I mean, sensible gun laws, hey, man, I'm okay as long as you can get all the guns away from the bad guys, the criminals that want to commit crimes, and, give the police billy clubs and batons. I'll be okay with that. But it ain't going to happen.
It ain't. From my cold, dead hands, I think is the best quote I've heard.
It's got to be from like the Civil War or World War I, it's a famous saying from one of the wars. I can't remember which one. So like, don't fire till you see the whites of their eyes. Yeah,
but you can't do that anymore, man, because they're firing on with drones and shit. Right?
Oh, that was what else I wanted to tell you. So I was watching a baseball game the other night.
Hurry up.
And it was in San Francisco.
Oh, yeah.
And the announcers were talking about the old Candlestick Park. So they were like, hey, thanks for Chopper 111 for this great footage of the old Candlestick Park. All I ask and it's there. So about 2 minutes later, he comes on and he goes, oh, my mistake. I was informed that there's too much fog out there. The helicopter's grounded. That was our new drone giving you that footage. And I was like, what? Major League Baseball is using drones now, too. So
imagine that. They'll have them out there on the NFL, too. They got that cable cam that goes across the top of the field when they're doing the plays or whatever, and every once in a while it gets hit by a football when they're trying to kick and shit. So,
well, the thing is with a drone, it could actually be hovering, 10,000 feet above the stadium where nobody could even see it, and it would still be able to read your ticket number on your stub.
If it was a military drone, right? I'm sure civilian ones don't have those kind of powerful cameras, do they?
Well, I'm not worried about a civilian drone, am I?
All right, man. 30 seconds. Well, no, I think it's about a minute. I think my clock's off 30 seconds now.
Yeah, I got 10:58.
Yeah, but 45 seconds. So, love, peace, and happiness, everybody. Got to start smiling a little more. For anybody that wants to know about my mom, she's doing really good. Up and walking around like normal. She was up and dressed by 8 o'clock this morning. So, buy your $10 worth of canned goods and stuff.
The world needs more positive energy. Try to contribute a little bit.
Yeah. There's good people out there. If you can't find one, be one. Peace, Brother Lance.
Peace and love. Peace and love. Thank you, Jim.
I'll talk to you later, man.
All right, bud.
Love you, everybody. Stay tuned. Anti-Media Radio's next. Nick Burnaby. I'm getting ready to toss you the phones, man. Peace, everybody.